and welcome to Nonprofit Enthusiasts Live, the weekly sessions where we talk about all things nonprofit. Whether you're a seasoned nonprofit professional or just getting started in the industry, these lives are for you. Our mission is to provide engaging and informative conversations with experts in the nonprofit world, sharing insights, strategies, and stories that can help you make a difference in your community and beyond. Each episode is centered around a theme for the month. The topics include anything from fundraising and marketing to volunteer management and board development. We'll explore the challenges facing nonprofits today and share practical tips and advice for overcoming them. But Nonprofit Enthusiast Live isn't just about learning. We also want to create a community of like-minded individuals who are passionate about making a positive impact. We want to hear from you and engage in conversations that inspire and motivate us all to do more. So whether you're tuning in during your morning commute, while doing chores around the house, or on a break from your busy workday, we hope you'll find something valuable in each episode of Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. I'm your host, Lashina Williams, and I am so excited to be here once again as we continue our theme of National Nonprofit Day, which is August 17th, and fund development and fundraising. If you missed last week, definitely go back and check it out. We talked about these things. We started to kickstart the conversation, so check out our guide sections for that. Right now, I'm excited to invite Dr. Angela White-Jones up. She has joined us before. Dr. White-Jones joins us from University of Central Florida. Go Knights, yeah! Brings extensive professional experience in grants and contract management, research administration, and advocacy in several sectors, but more extensively in nonprofits. Dr. White-Jones has written and been awarded over $21 million in grants and contracted funding in her young career, and I'm sure it's much more now. And I'm so excited to have her back on. Hello, Dr. White-Jones. How are you?
I'm doing well, Lashina. How are you?
Good. It is always good to have you on.
Excellent. It's good to be here. Good to be here, even if it is from my automobile this time. So I apologize for the background not being as pretty. I am not driving. I'm safely parked. So don't worry about that. But I am very, very, very happy to be here today to talk a little bit about and continue the conversation on fundraising and fundraising here as we head into the middle of August, in the middle of the heat.
Yes. Yeah, it has. Yes. I'm not even going to get started on the heat conversation because I can talk. So yes, I'm so glad to have you here. And it doesn't matter where you're calling from. We're just glad to have you on and just having you share your expertise with us. So this month, as mentioned, our theme has been, we talked about National Nonprofit Day, which is on August 17th. And just last week I came on and encouraged organizations, just do something for that day. It could be something internal, external, whatever it is. Just don't let this day pass by that has been proclaimed for nonprofit organizations without celebrating. Do you have anything that you would like to share or encourage nonprofits to do on this day, or any traditions that you may do for National Nonprofit Day?
Well, yes, I actually would encourage, like you said, all nonprofits to take advantage of this day by doing a couple of things. You can use this day to promote your nonprofit in general, tell a story of successes, individuals that you have worked with and that you have aided in the community, especially if you have people who have come back and can say that with your help in the past, it has changed their life in this particular way or in this particular format. You can really use this day to just promote yourself. And I know that with nonprofit professionals, we don't get into this business typically to promote self. That's not usually
Mm-hmm.
what we do. We want to help other people, but this is the day that you can be a little selfish, because, and this is the day that you can self promote in a way that really lets your community know that you're here, the good work that you're doing, the good work that you're going to continue to do, and how excited that you are to finish out 2023 with whatever plans or programs or fundraisers that you may have. Another thing that you can do to celebrate this day is also to possibly run a small campaign, or just to say, like, here are ways that you can give, or this is a way that you can volunteer. So if you could have both of those for those that may not be able to contribute monetarily, but they're really interested in your mission. You may have some volunteer opportunities and ways that other people can come in and help as well. Or you can, again, really stress that there's a particular campaign or a particular need that you may have. It might be a capital sort, it may be scholarships that you're raising, it may be just general programmatic funding, but or sponsorships that you need. But it's a really good idea to go out and talk about that. And it's also a good idea, I think, to celebrate your existing partners and your existing funders. So send a note to them, send a card. It is August, today is August 10th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, yep,
And
yep.
we've got about a week, which is still plenty of time to get small cards, little notes in the mail. If you've got partners that are nearby, maybe you can make plans to drop off a card with them next week. But, celebrate your volunteer base, celebrate your donors this day, let them know that you care and that you're just thinking of them, that you're not seeking out anything or asking them for more things. You just want to simply say thank you for contributing your time, your treasure, your talents to our organization. So those are some things that you can use National Nonprofit Day for, and to really, again, get that focus on your organization, and also promote that focus amongst those that have been helping and providing additional resources for you as well.
I love it. And I love that you talked about sending out cards. And this is something I've had to do, and I'm just going to share it with the organization. If you don't have a stock of thank you cards on deck, get a stack. Just purchase a stack, go on, and any of the, you can find it online for a low cost. Just have them nearby to remove the challenges of having to go find cards to say thank you. And that will help you get in the habit of just saying thank you on an ongoing basis, because you have this variety pack of cards that you could just do a hand note, drop it in the mail, and just let your donors, your partners, your volunteers, your staff, all your stakeholders know that you're thinking of them throughout the year. So I love that you talked about sending that out. But I do know sometimes that the challenge, because I know in my personal life, a lot of my cards, I write them up and everything, but then they sit right in one little one spot and may not ever get delivered. So, removing the kinks, purchasing the cards in advance. You might buy the stamps in advance and go ahead and keep that close to the cards, and have, so that's easy for you to just write and just drop it in the mail on your way out.
Absolutely. That is such a good idea. I think in my house, I have, it's got to be about 1,000 cards. I have blank cards in general. I have some cards for organizations that I belong to, that I'm on the board of, that have the organizational logo. So if
Hmm.
if it's not resource prohibitive, and you can get cards that have your logo on it, invest in that as well. But again, if you can't do that, general card note cards that are blank are perfect, and you don't have to seek out, like, oh, I got to go to Hallmark or whatever. You can get
Hmm.
Amazon. There's some, and some other places. I won't name them too much because they don't sponsor you when they sponsor, but
Right.
that are inexpensive, blank
Hmm.
cards. And like you said, keep a stack of those. Buy a roll of stamps that you're keeping nearby. Make sure that your lists are segmented. I know that this may have been talked about with other people. I may have even said this as well. But the one thing with nonprofits as well, make sure that you always keep your donor list up to date, your volunteer list up to date. Of course, you have, staff. You can send those cards and put those in person if people are working in the office. And if they're not working in the office, you can get addresses to your staff and send those notes there as well. But make sure that you have those up to date lists and make sure that they're easy in a system where it's easy to pull, and that they're again up to date and accurate. So on days like these, it's simply a matter of, let me run a database, let me run the
Mm-hmm.
Excel spreadsheet or what have you. Or you could put labels in your printer, and then just let that happen and let the labels print out for you. And then it's merely just as simple as sticking them on there, or as a group you can all gather around maybe during lunch, have a nice working lunch. And it's something different too. It kind of just breaks up the monotony of the day, especially if you are used to making phone calls or having meetings,
Mm-hmm.
or reading proposals or writing things or what have you. Just taking the time to write a handwritten thank you note and send those and address those is really great. And again, it's a good way to friend develop for the future, because it shows to volunteers, and it shows to donors, and it shows to the stakeholders that people are more than just numbers. They're more than just their wallet. They're more than just the hours that they put in. They're really, really valuable contributors. And people love, even if it's 2023, folks love, of all generations, I think,
Mm-hmm.
love a handwritten note. It's just something personal, something you get to open. You're not, especially if you're not expecting it. It's
Mm-hmm.
something where you're like, wow, like someone thought enough to just take the time to do this for me. And it's those little touches that really matter and that keep those relationships thriving, for sure.
Yep. And then the awesome thing about sending it now too is, so I know holidays are coming up and the holiday cards are going to be going out, but yours is going to stand out amongst all the cards because not many organizations are sending cards or saying thank yous around this time. So that I think that's another bonus for sending those cards out.
I agree. That's a really good point. Very good point.
So the other portion of our theme for this month is fund development and fundraising. So, what are some tips or best practices that you have found in this area?
So so it's an interesting time now, as we know, to be in development and raising money.
Mhm.
There's a lot of different ways and avenues that people are trying to use in order, because resources are stretched amongst everyone, whether it's individuals or companies or families, family foundations, so on and so forth. The biggest thing that I would say as far as fund development is, number one, keeping a list of what you need specifically. Sometimes, or at least right now, there's a lot of people that are like, well, we'll just kind of fundraise for it in general, and then we'll see what it's
Mhm.
like. But if you have competitors that have much more of a nuanced, or they have a more specific idea of what they're going to be using funds for right now, because people are resource stretched, they're able to say, well, I know that my dollar is going to go towards this particular scholarship fund, or it's going to go towards this particular educational studio, or whatever it is, or this particular hire. So they are able to see a more tangible benefit to that. So if you can find more specifics in your fund development plan, then that is great. If you have any opportunities where people can put their name on anything, where they can, whether it's physical, putting their name on something, banners, chairs, plots, bricks, something to that effect. Or if it's just merely an opportunity for a sponsorship of an event, or sponsorship of several events throughout the year. Make those things known as well. People love, right now, it makes it seem as if and sometimes I will say, there is a nonprofit professional, um, personality that might not feel great about that because they're like, I don't really love the quid pro quo idea. And that is certainly fair. But now people are looking at giving and philanthropy as more of an investment, as more of in a business minded structure. So it does become a okay, we're going to give, but what can we get out of it? We feel the altruism that is there.
Hmm.
We know it's going to help people. So that is, of course, a benefit. But what an added bonus if there's a opportunity for us to advertise or put our logo out there for a meeting or for a particular fundraising event or, for anything that's available. So if there is a plan in your fund structure in order to do that, that's always helpful. Again, like we talked about, as far as like the friend raising and the connection part of that, again, there can never be too many touches and touch points that you make with people, with potential donors, and with current donors as well. And if you're making those touch points, if you know that there are donors, this really applies to individuals, maybe family donors that may have connections. Maybe you start something where it's like, would you mind hosting a circle of friends lunch at your residence or at your business? Would you mind just being able to tell, 1 to 5 people about who we are and what we do, and almost launch a connector or friendship circle as far as fundraising
Mm.
concerned with those individuals. That way, it's a way that you're asking for, to see if there's any contacts that someone may have, or that a family foundation or family or a group may have, that would also be interested in the mission that you have, without having to say, hey, can you introduce me to your Rolodex of people, or I'm well known amongst this, around this community. I really want to get in, to those people. It makes it where you're not acting as though you're using someone
Hmm.
connections, but that it becomes more organic. Because again, right now, fundraising and development is about the organic connection. It's about the organic place that a organization's mission has in someone's life. And they may not have ever heard of your organization, but the minute that they hear your mission and what you've done, that might be like, oh, that it's here, it's touching here, or I had a dream about this, and I now am meeting the person that's connecting with me. Like, you never know
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
someone what's happening in someone's life, where they feel connected to certain nonprofit missions that are available. But the thing is getting in front of them and knowing that you're here and you're out here and that you exist. And so, being able to ask your existing donors to see if they can host something, and if they maybe feel uncomfortable hosting something in their home, or maybe if they feel like they don't have the space. If you have the space, if your organization has the
Hmm.
space, maybe you can host something, or say, like, we can do this at night or during the weekend at our facility, or we can, have a joint lunch or a joint dinner at a certain place. Like, so that there's different ways to do it. But again, ask them if they wouldn't mind having like a friend connector lunch or celebration, or even a friend connector coffee. Maybe, they have a group of friends that always meet in the morning. So, you know, you go to them, you go to what they can
Hmm.
do, and you see what they can do. But that's another kind of low pressure opportunity for organizations to get their mission out, to meet more people, to let them know what it is that they do, and to engender trust as well. Because if there's a friend that's saying, well, I give or I volunteer here, and I would love you to consider, hearing them out. You don't have to give, you don't have to volunteer. It's no pressure, but I'm excited about what they do, and I want to share that with my base of people. It's a low pressure situation in order to just simply do just that, just introduce what you do in your mission, and hopefully get some people some resources from that.
I love that. And just being able to, now you're inviting your friend, the donor, to invite their friends. So it's not just the donor, now it's also their sphere of influence getting involved, and learning about your organization and how they can be a part of the mission. And you're right, because a lot of times whenever I get a referral or someone says, hey, this is a great organization, or this is a great company, you should check this out. A lot of the, typically you would do a lot of research and try to look into all of that. Kind of goes out the window when the person who's delivering that message is credible. And I know, okay, you know what? If they said it's good, it's good. Let's go. Let's just go with it. So hearing it from the friend of the friend about your organization, I love that, and I love these circles that you're talking about, where inviting the donor to have these circles. I love it. I love it all. And the other thing is, you talk about, because I know our theme, fundraising and fund development, but you brought together that connection. Like, you can't fundraise, seek grants, seek funding without that. You can, but in order to be successful, that relationship component is important. Sending those thank you cards, having those sit downs with your donors, building that relationship, so it's not just like knocking on the door every time you need some money. No, we actually have a relationship built. So if we could talk a little bit more about that, when it comes to the importance of having this relationship for donors, and even in the grant realm as well, like what advantages does that bring to a nonprofit?
Absolutely. I think it's one that is, I think major gift officers and traditional development officers do it well. If they're going to do it well, they do it well because they're used to stewarding people and those relationships. With grants, I think it is been a recent movement to stewardship and developing that relationship. When I started long time ago, it really wasn't about relationship building and as in and of as much as it was just about the proposal itself, and about if you knew how to write and craft a proposal that was convincing and make your convincing argument on paper. But now technology, um, proximity, a lot of things have really made it so that and probably even the fact that um, so many funding sources have had constraints on how much they can give, or that they're not going to give just in perpetuity all the time. Developing those relationships as well, and making those calls or sending those letters or those notes or inviting them to things, for grant writers, or for grant funders, is very important too. A foundation loves to get an invitation to your breakfast, and to your major event. It's not just the individual donor. So if you have a executive director or a CEO of XYZ Foundation, send them that invitation. Put their name on that list as part of that donor packet. They want to come. They want to see. They want to see who else is contributing, who else is there, who is a partner, and who sees the vision. And you never know who's going to be connected at your breakfast or at your fundraising event, and they're going to think back like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that this grant manager or this grant officer or this director sent me this note to come and join them. They don't have to feel like they're the left out person, where all the corporations and the major individual donors and family organizations, they get the invites to everything and the cards, and like the
Mm-hmm.
corporate person is just like, well, we gave money too, we get invited to anything. And they want to,
Mm-hmm.
and I say invite people even if they're outside of your community. Sometimes we get funding from places that are not in the same state. Invite them anyway, because they love it. They just love the fact that you've taken the time to care about them, even if
Mm-hmm.
come. And you never know who may be in town. They, again, people go for different businesses and different reasons as well. So you never know if that foundation or the foundation that is through a major company, if they might have somebody who will be visiting you, or visiting your area for business or for pleasure. And they may be able to come to your events as well, but they still want to hear from you. And so I think, regardless of if it's a major donor, if it's a bequest, if it's if there are volunteers as well, like, make all of your stakeholders feel loved and cared for and cherished as people who have taken the time and the treasure and the talent to help you help the community at whatever you need. That's the important, because we all know, like, how many of us honestly would love, like, if somebody came and was like, hey, I need $50. All right, here, I'm gonna give it to you. I need 50 more dollars. Okay, I'm gonna give it. I need the, like, and then if they never said thank you, or if when they saw you, they never invited you to, like, a Christmas party that they had, or a birthday party that they had, or an event or something to that effect. Sure, you don't mind giving it because you're like, if you need it, out of the kindness of
Hmm.
your heart. But people are also simply human. They just don't want to feel like they're an ATM, or that they're a resource for volunteer hours. They want to feel appreciated. And so those little steps of thank you cards, or of asking if they want to attend an event, or giving them the opportunity for naming opportunities. There might be a list. You might say, like, look, our naming opportunity started at
Hmm.
$1,000. If we need to work something out, you don't necessarily have to decrease your list for that, but to just give them the option of things to that degree really helps develop that relationship as well. And again, just continues to store it, or just say, we wanted to just send this out and say thank you for just no reason at all. We don't need anything. Or sending out newsletters that keep them abreast of what's happening with the organization. When you have your annual newsletter, or if you have a biannual newsletter or something to that effect, they just want to know, like, keep me abreast of what's happening. Like,
Hmm.
we're partners in this thing. So we appreciate the over communication as opposed to the under communication.
Love it. So let me ask you this before we wrap up today's conversation. How do you think, do you believe a donor research plays a role in important in relationship building, fundraising? Um, and if so, what are some of the value added, do you think, from researching donors or potential individuals prior to, making those connection points, if possible, when time allows?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can research a prospective donor, please do. It's always good to know, especially when you're meeting someone for the first time, know a little bit about them and what they do, who they are, if they've given to other and similar causes, if they've been in your city forever, or if they maybe have just moved here. And the biggest thing also is that you can research and do, like, small things, but also just listen, have a conversation. And I think a lot of times when you're meeting someone for the first time, like, they know the deal. They know that you're calling them because you are trying to raise money. Like, these,
Hmm.
a lot of times, 99% of the time, this is not the first rodeo people have gone on. And so they
Hmm.
where. But the difference maker are the resource development officers, and the development officers, and the fundraisers who make it a point to listen and have communication with a person, like they're just sitting down with an old friend or meeting a new friend
Hmm.
for the first time. And it's asking them things like, how long have you lived here in the city? If they've lived here for a while, you might ask them, like, do you enjoy it? How have you seen the city evolve? Like, what are the things that you really like about it that you've seen grow, or some of the holes that you see are missing? If they're new, you can, kind of tell them maybe about, like, certain things they can look for, or opportunities they can look into. There's all kinds of things that you can gain just by having a personal conversation with an individual, or a couple, and hearing about their life, hearing about why they do what they do, hearing about their passions, hearing about the things that make them tick. And if you are paying attention and you know your own organization cold, you usually can find a way to weave your mission or an opportunity that you have into a way that can connect with them as well. And not that first time that you meet with them are you going to likely get, you know, money or, you know, maybe
Mhm.
volunteer time, perhaps. But sometimes people have to think about that as well because time is also a precious commodity these days.
Mhm.
So the first time you meet someone, don't necessarily go into it with the expectation that they're going to write you a check or give you that time, but go into it with an expectation more of, let me get to know you and tell you why it's worthwhile us developing this relationship. And then that time after that, they're going to be much more likely to be like, all right, so, you know, I'm a business person, let's see what we can do. What do you have available? Or I've thought about it. I've seen your mission. I've seen your website. You know, let's talk more about what are the opportunities that are available. How can I help you? How can, you know, I get into this as well? So, you know, but yes, if you can do your research, if you, you know, Google is, they always say Google is your friend. And it, if you, there's some, you know, spectacular donor databases out there that you can also, if you do have the resources to do that, that you can look at and glean. You can talk to other people around, maybe if your board has any relationships with them, you know, talk to board members, even talk to them before you make the connection, because maybe your board members will also want to be there for that particular meeting if they know that person as well. But yes, definitely trying to do a little bit of research for an individual donor, a corporate donor, as well as a grantor is certainly helpful.
I love it. And it's so funny because while you're speaking, I was like, I think this. So, long story short, yesterday I had a call with a company that was trying to sell, make a sell of a substantial investment. But it was our first initial call. And then she was saying things about me. And I'm like, oh, she did her research. And even when she's telling me or selling me their product, she's saying things that connect to things, that I knew this, even though it's our first time meeting, she already kind of looked up things before she hopped on the call. And honestly, it was kind of like that. Oh, okay, number one, it helped fast track the conversation in the sense of, yeah, I mean, yeah, I still talked a little bit more in depth, but it kind of helped knowing that she already has some of the background. And then two, it gave me that feeling like, oh, we're gonna have to find a way to make this work. Like with just because it felt like more of a connection. And of course, there's other conversations like, we found out we're from the same town and those type of things that built those connections. But then while you're talking, I'm thinking about how it makes a donor feel
Yeah.
when they know that, you spent time beyond that conversation to get to know who they are, their company, the things they do, the things they enjoy, and then also during the conversation, you want to know about them, and then of course weaving in that connection point. And you're right, getting on that call, I knew it was a call to sell something. I knew it was a call, just one of many calls to come. So the donor knows, like, this meeting, okay, you're from this, da da da. They already know there's some one of the purposes is how can they help or how can you help one another. They know that part when getting into the call. So yes, I love everything that you shared on this call. Anything else before we wrap up that you would like to share?
No, I just want to say and continue to promote that relationship building. You know, find that unique connection that you have. And yes, the more research that you do, the better. You never know the connection that someone has. You might have gone to the same alma mater, or maybe your mom or your grandma went to the same alma mater,
Hmm.
same city, or you know, your partner used to live there. I mean, you never know the ways that people are connected in this on this planet, honestly. And
Hmm.
it's a lot more, it's a lot easier, I think, than a lot of people think that it is. So yes, taking that effort, taking that time to do that is critical between those who really can make those connections and get it done, and those that cannot.
Love it. So, before we wrap up today, I always like to end with homework, and you shared a lot of information that I believe we can implement now. One is with National Nonprofit Day coming up on August 17th. I challenge you all to get at least, let's say 10. Maybe we can make a number of 10. 10 cards. Don't buy a 10 pack though. Buy bigger than a 10 pack so you have your future cards, but send out at least 10 thank you cards from your organization to, whichever stakeholder you identify, your volunteers, your donors. Just send some cards out. So I think that would be a good homework. So that's your challenge, is to send out 10 cards by August 17th. So that's your deadline. And then the other thing I think is good is um, thinking about how can you integrate the donor lunches that you talked about on the call. How does that fit within your nonprofit organization? Is that something that you can do? And if it is, what would that look like? So I will challenge you to look into more. How can I not only engage with my donor, but engage with the friends of my donor as well? We're all friends. How can we do that? So taking a look at that. So that's the two homework assignments that we'll leave with you today. Dr. White Jones, is always a pleasure having you on. I'm looking forward to our upcoming conversation. You'll be back with us in November. And so I'm looking for, or no, December, in December. Yep, in December. So I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation, closing out the year with you, continuing to talk about friendships and fun development and all of that. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. I had a blast as usual, and I look forward
Yeah,
to talking with you too towards the end of the year.
awesome. So I will see you then. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.